Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. One of the things, like, did anything shift when people started buying guns? When there was this moment where, what was the number of gun sales went up? Something crazy.
Shit, it was crazy. Oh,
like 40-something percent.
I think it was higher than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let's find it. Let's guess. I'm thinking it's like 40%. Jamie, what do you think? What's your guess? What's the percentage?
Yeah, that sounds right. I have a different question, but
okay, go ahead.
First.
Go ahead.
I'm looking that up because I see the statistic of 500,000 to 3 million. But it's would the Center for Disease Control be doing that?
Really?
Because they want to make it a healthcare issue. Because you hear them say it all the time. They say this is a public health issue. It's easier to sell gun control when you deem it a public. It's no different than what think COVID and the vaccine.
Why wouldn't it be the ATF though?
Because it's easier to sell it as a public health issue.
I know, but firearms is literally in their title.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you say it the way Biden says it, you switch firearms and tobacco.
AFT. but you got to.
Yeah.
They're very good. The one thing I will say about them, and when I say them, I mean the gun control lobby, which generally speaking, and I got a lot of people who follow me who are more liberal, they hate when I bring up the Democrats. They hate it because they think I'm just trying to push this one-sided narrative with respect to the Republicans. No.
Right.
It is what it is. If you look at all the gun control legislation, you look at anybody who's pushing gun control, the vast majority of them, I'm talking 99% of the time, they are Democrats.
Why do you think that is?
Because the Democratic ideology is based around bigger government, right? And so you can't necessarily exact your control over a group of people if they have something as self-reliant as a firearm.
Do you really think that's what it is?
I do think that to a degree that is it.
I
Yes.
think it's that the ideology behind being a left-wing person is you want less violence, and I think maybe you're more reluctant to actually take into account real human nature and the real potential breakdown of society that would cause you to need a gun. I think they're more idealistic, more utopian, and perhaps more delusional.
I think the people who vote Democrat believe that. I think the people in power have a different agenda. I think from their and honestly, they are the proverbial hammer. So when your fundamental ideologies are based around bigger government, you think the solution for everything is more government.
Right.
So if a shooting happens, right, and come on, do we really think government is the most efficient entity at solving problems in our country? No. People complain about the government all the time. But when you are the government and you get something like a shooting and people are like, we need to do something about it. Okay, more government. Let's throw these laws out here. Like, restrict that, take that. So they take on a more parent role as opposed to an entity designed to find true solutions to fix a problem. So they say, okay, well, if this small number of people are killing people with guns, take the guns away. It's just an oversimplified approach to any problem that comes up because they're not really about getting to the true issue of the problem. They just want to either look like they're doing something about it, and so they'll just take the easiest approach. Or they'll try to scapegoat it on something because at the end of the day, they realize that their ineptitude with respect to leadership is going to be put on full blast. More specifically, our inner cities.
Right.
Right? So if the vast majority, I mean close to 80% of gun homicides in this country are coming from our inner cities. And we have 400 million guns in this country.
Is it really 80%?
Damn near, yes. It's high. It's high. I'm talking gun homicides.
Right.
Not like gun deaths.
Right.
Because it's driven by gang and drug violence. That's
with gun deaths, then you start including suicide.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so if you understand that, that means that we're having a high concentrated level of violence in very specific areas in this country, right? And as a result of that, you look at that and you say, okay, well, we have we have an area of concentrated violence in specific areas, but yet we have guns all across the country that don't have this violence. So clearly there's something else going on here other than the fact that there are guns. And then predominantly, these inner cities are led by Democrats. It just is what it is. It's not
And
me
they
playing
have
politics.
heavy gun control, which
exactly.
is even crazier.
So it stands to reason you're not doing something in these places that you should be doing in order to deal with this violence.
Yeah.
And in my research and in my study, when I was reading this book, it's called I think it's like Don't Shoot or something like that. I can't remember the exact title of it. So I was reading this book and it was talking about this program called Ceasefire. There is a program currently now that's called Ceasefire, but I don't think it's the same program. Or it's a former shell of itself. But, this guy, this criminologist, he set out, and I think it was done in Boston, and they were dealing with a lot of violence in their inner cities. And so what they did is they put together a program. It was a very holistic approach to the violence. And essentially the cops came together along with the community leaders and so forth and so on, and they knew who the perpetrators were of this violence. You got to think about it. Do we really honestly believe that the vast majority of these kids in the inner city are killers? No, it takes a very specific type of person to be a killer. So a lot of the killings that are taking place in these places are done by a very hyper-focused group of kids in these areas. And the vast majority of the time, the police know who these kids are. The police know who the perpetrators of this violence are. And so what they did is they came together, they said, all right, here's what we're gonna do. And they brought the leaders of the gangs and the kids who were out on the street, so forth and so on, came together and like, look, we're not going to say we're not going to arrest you for the drug dealing, because whatever happens with respect to that. But if the bodies continue, we're going to make life incredibly hard for you on these streets, really hard. And as time went on, the violence stopped. The number went down. Because at the end of the day, you got to think about it. A lot of these kids are carrying guns not because they want to go and kill someone. They're carrying guns because they're scared. They've grown up in an environment that has forced them to engage in the lifestyle that they're in, generally speaking. So if I'm a kid, and even if I don't want to partake in this particular lifestyle, if that's the only thing that surrounds me, and I know that at any given point my life could be threatened, I'm going to carry a gun too. Or even if I'm a kid that's like, look, I want to make some extra money. I'm not justifying drug dealing. I'm not justifying the selling of drugs. But if I'm a kid who just says, you know what, I want to sell money because I grew up, the only form of success that I've seen were the drug dealers in my area, so I'm going to sell drugs. Of course he's going to carry a firearm. He's selling drugs. There are going to be other people who are going to try to take his product, so forth and so on. Doesn't necessarily mean he's a killer, right? So when you focus entirely on the firearm and only on the firearm, it doesn't do anything to actually deal with the issue the underlying issue that's happening in these places. It's a socioeconomic issue. When you grow up in poverty, I'm sorry, there's going to be a predisposition with respect to your area. You're going to have more violence there because what is the natural economy there? Drugs.
That's one of the weirder aspects of gun violence is the reluctance to address the violence in inner cities while focusing on the violence of the rare mass shooter. Because the inner city, like if you look at the south side of Chicago, it's a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's almost every weekend there's a bunch of homicides.
I think the reason why is because, like you actually touched on it, how do you avoid inner city violence?
You're going to have to fix the crime.
No, I mean just you. How do you avoid being
Stay
a victim?
out of the inner city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, when people feel like some random yo-yo can walk into a store
Right.
and just start shooting people,
Right,
it terrifies
right.
them,
Yeah.
which is understandable.
Yeah.
It's totally understandable. But none of these laws that they're proposing do anything to stop this. They won't.
No.
So it begs the question, is the goal really to try to save lives? Or are they leveraging these shootings to get a specific agenda that they have passed? Today, there was another growing gun confiscation request in all 50 of our states requesting to confiscate our AR-15s. We want the government to know what would happen if they tyrannically passed their so-called assault weapons ban. I will not comply is a symbolization of defiance against politicians, anti-gunners, and any other tyrannical entity looking to deprive you or your Second Amendment right as put forth in the Constitution of the United States. I'm sure the YouTube algorithm is going to do a phenomenal job of suppressing this message. So please share this video with as many people as you can so we can beat the algorithm and get our two-way message out to the masses. Also, don't forget to like this video and leave a comment and hit the bell and subscribe button. Let my voice be your voice and let them know you want to keep America tactical because the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed wasn't a suggestion, it was a directive. Also, if you're wondering where to purchase your AR-15s are essential, I will not comply. I am the militia. I lost all my guns in a boating accident, and your state-specific Keep America tactical shirt. Click the link next to my head or the link in the description section, or if you're watching this on a mobile device, tap the small triangle on the lower right-hand side of this video and click the link in the description.